All right, all you positive heads. On this week's Soul Share episode, I'm very excited to have Zoey Greco here with me on the show. Zoey is an intuitive development mentor and host of the Higher Self Hotline podcast, where she highlights her psychic gifts and utilizes them to help people live intuitively led, authentic lives. Hey there, Zoey. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You're the second Zoey I've had in like 2 months. Good for you.
Wow,
Yeah, she does
really?
the podcast as well. Yeah. Called The Better It Gets. So
Oh, I love that.
Um, so let's see. What I'd like to do is kick this off with my cliche opening question,
Please.
which is this. You're in an elevator. The woman next to you looks over, says, "What's your passion?" You have 10 floors to answer. What do you say?
The elevator pitch. This is a hard one. As a multi-passionate person, this has always been a struggle for me, and as a wordy person. But what I would say is my passion is helping people feel free to live as their most authentic self. My passion is helping people connect to the voice of their higher self so that they can fulfill their soul's purpose in this lifetime and experience fulfillment, peace, abundance, joyfulness, connection.
Love that. Love that. Yeah. Did you see recently there's a thing, going around social media about a study done. I think MIT was involved where
I haven't seen this.
they were measuring what the most powerful emotion is. I think I'm getting that right. Yeah, it's like, because I remember when they're talking about it, they're like, oh, what would you think it most likely is? Love, right? And what this study showed, and like I said, they have some way of measuring your energetics when you're experiencing these different states. What they found is more powerful than love was authenticity.
Oh,
That is like
yes.
the most powerful. So what I love about this is think about, you know, you coming into the world to bring your gift, to do your thing, whatever it is. You are literally more powerful,
Mm-hmm.
measurably more powerful if you're being authentic than if you're not. So
Yes.
if you're not being authentic, you're BSing, or it's not really you, that is energetically emitted and felt. And, so it's really something to, yeah, I love that.
I honestly resonate with that so deeply. And I, over this past year in 2024, just randomly in a staff meeting I was having with my team, I just kind of looked at them and was like, do you guys think I should rebrand from Merhipsy Healing to my own name? And they all almost in unison were like, yeah, definitely. Like, you definitely need to rebrand. And it was just, I had not even had it on my mind. I hadn't even had it on my radar, but I felt it almost like channeled through me that it was time to stop operating under this like pseudonym that I had had for nearly a decade and really embrace my own name, my own identity. Because the truth is, I came here to be Zoey.
Yeah.
And lately, the topic of authenticity has been so top of mind for me. And I've realized that I've really been doing myself and the world a huge disservice because growing up, I'm a person that just kind of naturally commanded attention. And because of that, I also naturally commanded critique and criticism. And I probably didn't have more than one teacher in my entire life that did not take an opportunity to publicly humiliate me in front of the class
Wow.
because I just commanded so much attention. I think they just didn't know how else to do it except to like shut me down, shut me up.
Put you in your place.
Yes, exactly. And so because of that, I really kind of learned that it's not safe to be myself fully and out loud in this world. But not only that, I learned how impactful your words can be and your presence can be. And so for a really long time, I've tried to make my language and my work as inclusive as possible. But I've discovered that by trying to bring everyone together, it ends up creating sort of like a loose weave rather than when you show up in the fullest expression without concern for the way that it might repel or hurt others. The weave gets tighter the more authentic that you are. And that's something that I've really become aware of, especially on the other side of this election, which we don't necessarily have to talk about. But that definitely was something that came to the forefront of my awareness. And so talking about authenticity is probably my main focus right now.
Love that. Yeah, it's funny that you bring up the rebranding under your name because, this podcast has been around almost 10 years as Positive Head. And really, most people are using their name, and as I've kind of explored some new things that I want to start doing, I've been thinking about how am I going to put it out there,
Mm.
and is it just going to be my name? And so that very topic has been like present for me. So that's an interesting thing. Interesting that you bring that up. So, um, let's see. So what I'd like to do, if you would, is share. I always like to kind of start off the conversation with some context: who you are, how you got
Yeah,
here. Whatever feels relevant to share regarding your background.
sure. I'm Zoe. I'm a professional intuitive. I'm currently in Phoenix, Arizona, but I work with clients all over the world, and I'm originally from New York. And I think the main question that people ask me often is, how long have I been psychic? Which I think is such a funny question. Because I do know that there are people who have like near death experiences and awaken to, their intuitive abilities, or people who leave, hyper religious conservative environments and awaken to their intuitive abilities. I came out the womb talking about my past lives, talking about my soul contract. And I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to have a support system around me, particularly my mother. I would say my father was more atheist, agnostic,
Mm-hmm.
apathetic, whereas my mother was really not like a stage bomb in any way, not trying to like highlight it or magnify it, but just keep it intact for me. So from
Mm.
a very early age, I was using oracle cards. I have decks in these drawers right in front of me. I've had since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
I was taken to psychic fairs, and I always, always, always had practitioners telling me that I had a gift and that I would end up using that gift. And as a young teen and tween in the early 2000s, I was like, no, I'd rather just be like everybody else and be normal. And I tried. I really tried. I went to college. I studied gender and Asian culture. I was interested in journalism. I thought I was going to be, a world changer. And I just could not avoid the calling of being of service through these particular gifts.
Mm.
And I would say in my early 20s, I was probably 22 when I started this business and tried to start bringing this into the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard because I'm only 5 feet tall and I've always looked a lot younger than I am. So
Mm-hmm.
people were really not taking me seriously. They were like, why would I take advice from a literal child? Like, you're a
Right. Right. Right.
baby. And I had to really fight my physical vessel in order to be taken seriously. And that's a part of the journey that I don't often talk about, but one that is becoming more sort of present and top of mind for me, because what a sad story to think that my body was obstructing me, like to think that my vessel, or my physical vessel that I chose this body, I designed this body,
Right.
would actually be some sort of hindrance to me. So through over the last 10 years, I've been healing other people, but I've really also been healing myself, and
Sure.
so grateful for the work that I've been able to do. I've published my own oracle decks. I have my podcast. I've worked with thousands and thousands of people. And I really genuinely believe that it is also a part of my human journey to be expanded by the empathetic experiences I'm able to have through the lives of others, and through like
Mm.
the more visceral sort of experience that I have, and vicarious experience I'm able to have through others. I feel so full of experience, and it's exciting to know that there's still so much to experience, and so much left to achieve and explore. And that's something that I think is really central in my work, is trying to help people understand, like, you have all the time you need. There's no rush. There's no
Mm.
rush to self-discovery. And if we were to achieve everything we wanted in this very moment, what
Mm.
would be left? Like, what would
Right.
be left to enjoy? What would be left to
Right.
explore?
Right.
So that's really where I'm kind of focused in the work that I do.
Yeah. I think that's a very important point. That there's time. I mean, I was watching um, this guy Gary Brecka, I believe it was, yesterday on a clip talking about, like, in the next couple years we'll advance hundreds of years, the equivalent of hundreds of years in technology and health and wellness, and with AI and all the stuff that's happening. It's like
Mm,
the old story is out the window of what it means to age. He was saying, like, you're alive 3 years from now, 120, 140 should be easy. Well, okay, by 120 to 140, that's a long time away. What's the advancements from there? So really what it means, to age and time and all that stuff is not, throw it out the window. It's not the old stories, who your grandparents were and what it meant to turn a certain age. That's not it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's, it's an exciting and interesting time to be alive for sure. And
Definitely.
there's a lot of time to figure out, you know, and for me personally, I know, you know, this comparison thing. I mean, not just me, but everyone, comparing to other people's trajectory and
Yes.
how, how they, you're on your own path, right? You're literally, there is no comparison. And sometimes people take a more winding road, but yet then it makes it sweeter on the other end. And I think all of that is really important to consider too.
Absolutely. I think there's there's also like this kind of pace to the world. Even outside of technology, I feel like everyone is just sort of always constantly pushing forward in a rush, like almost like there's something at our heels chasing us. And
Mm-hmm.
as that sort of force continues to amplify, at least for me personally, I'm feeling a need and a desire to slow down. Like probably once a day I think, should I just say fuck it all and go like grow a garden somewhere on the other side of the country and just like hide in a cottage? Like
Hmm.
should I just grow my own carrots and like let life pass me by? I think there's this like this desire to feel like we have to keep up, keep up, keep up. And
Yep.
at the same time, you're absolutely right. Like each of us have our own pace, our own journey, our own story. And I'm finding too, the more that I slow down, the more aware that I become. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really important. And part of one of the reasons that I'm almost reluctant to share with people that I'm a psychic, because I think there's this belief that being a psychic means that you're living in the future, projecting into the future, you're aware of what the future brings. And yes, there's part of that that is true, but intuition is most powerfully felt and utilized in the present moment to guide you
Mm-hmm.
from where you are exactly here
Mm-hmm.
into the infinite possibilities that are available before you. And if you're rushing, you're not able to be methodical or clear or decisive about which of those paths of infinite reality you actually want and desire to
Mm-hmm.
walk down. And so you probably experience this a lot in the people that you work with and talk to, but I see this every single day in my clients. I have people that are in their late 30s, mid 40s, 50s that have been climbing some sort of ladder, ascend to the level that they've always desired, and look around and go, why did I do this? I don't even like it. What was I thinking? And it's
Yeah.
because they're following someone else's story or someone else's example or someone else's expectations. They're just doing what they think they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then it's those very same people that come to me and go, tell me it's going to be okay. Tell me I didn't waste my time. Tell me that,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not I didn't throw my whole life away, that that there was meaning in this. And yes, there's always meaning.
Always.
Like
Yeah.
the choice that they made was the choice they needed to make, but we're living in a different era, a different time, a different essence, a different paradigm in which we get to slow down. And this is a collective movement into self-awareness,
Mm-hmm.
self-fulfillment, into the recognition of what it is that we each individually actually desire, rather than the noise of what is happening around us. Because comparison, as you spoke about, it isn't always sometimes just about like, oh, someone's doing something I really want to do. It's just, oh, they've achieved some sort of level of success or completion, or we're at the same age and they're already a Emmy winning show producer. Like I haven't even made a sandwich today. Like there's so
Right.
many ways that we're so hard on ourselves because we see other people experiencing. But I really believe that the new earth is created from self actualization rather than the awareness of what everyone else is doing. And I'm not entirely positive that I think that technology has really done us a service in that way, particularly. Like, yes, we're more connected than ever. But I also feel like I have so much more access to everyone's business than I really should have,
Yeah.
than I really need, and than I really want,
Yeah.
frankly.
Well, it's like anything really. It's like the scalpel can be used to kill, it can be used to heal. It's,
Yes.
it's all, is it good? Yes. Is it bad? Yes.
Yes.
And yeah, to speak to, you're talking about comparison, it really is the thief of joy.
Yes.
And instead of, one thing that I talk about is whenever something's coming across your field that you really desire or prefer or would like to see more of or would like in your own life, instead of creating separation between it, what if you flip this story, the narrative to, oh, wow, I'm resonating so closely with this particular vibration that out of the infinite things that could pop on my feed right now or be in my face right now, it's this thing that I do that is it's a reflection of what it is that I'm calling in more of. So I must be getting closer. Like that's
Yeah.
a very different way to frame it than, oh, I'll never be like them and they're better than me and they made it further. And, it's like, it's everyone's going at their own pace. And I know for me, I've really had to like work on that with my own story, and
Mm,
my own what I would view as quote unquote setbacks or, disappointments
sure.
and decisions and things like that. And it's like, no, actually, had you gotten the thing sooner, it would not have served you the way it could or mankind. And, you know, the greater one toils for their freedom, the greater the sense of freedom that's attained. And
Mm.
so,
Well, I'm so glad you're saying that, and I'm so grateful for your transparency because I think it's really important. I obviously am also in the world of podcasting. I talk to talented, amazing people with varying levels of ubiquity and fame and all sorts of things, and
mm-hmm,
they all have one thing in common, which is a sense of a lack of accomplishment.
mm-hmm,
And I find that so interesting because there are people who look at you and idolize you, who wish that they had been able to accomplish the things that you've accomplished, who would give anything to walk in your shoes. And that's not to say that you have to have some, heightened level of gratitude. You get to be a human too. You get to be dissatisfied. You get to have that experience. But I think it's so important for people to know and to hear that even those who are living the life that they look to and idolize have some level of unfulfillment, have some level of dissatisfaction, have some level of questioning of themselves and what ifs and all these things. And I really think the gift that you can give is that transparency to say, I'm pushing myself too. I'm frustrated with myself too. I have this story as well. It's such a gift because it's not only liberating to those who feel like they have to attain and chase the trajectory that you're on, but it also grants you the permission to actually be a human being, to actually exist. Because I think sometimes people can place you on a pedestal, and not you particularly, but like,
yeah,
people that are in a public position can be placed on a pedestal.
for sure.
And I think we all need to be taken down from that place and
100%.
exist in sort of an eye to eye
Mm-hmm.
level, like the level playing field. And we can't do that if we're not being honest about the feelings that we're having too. Because what happens is, and I'm sure I know you've experienced this because we're talking about it. I go through the same thing where I achieve some sort of milestone that I've been reaching for, wanting, hoping for. And I get there and I don't even take the time to recognize or celebrate it or feel joyful. I'm just like, oh, well, great, I did it. Now I got to reach for this thing. Now I got to reach for this thing. And like, what permission could we grant ourselves? What things could we actually accomplish if we
Mm-hmm.
were being present, if we were being slow, if we were being soft, if we were
Yeah.
being patient with ourselves? So that's sort of the shift that I'm working on making, and I want to be making that shift out loud so that other people can know that it's safe for them to feel that way as well. They don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be in a rush.
Yeah. Yeah. It, yeah, I mean, you said a lot there. A lot of good stuff. As far as rushing and trying to it's like, yeah, there's always going to be more. There's,
Hmm.
numbers never end, likes never end, listens
Yes.
or follows or any of that stuff that's so important in our world now, you know, and and you got to be careful not to, it's like for me, I remember when I first moved into the Mystic Manor, co-living in event space and started doing retreats. And at first, when we'd have events and lots of people here and people really stack ranking and put you on a pedestal and like, and I just like, oh God, don't do, no, it feels like, but then almost trying to like diminish, you got to be careful not to diminish yourself too.
Yes.
And so I've really, that whole dance, I mean, you and I talked a little bit about this before recording, like, you know, this podcast was, on a certain wave of years back. And I just was like, oh God, it's like I had that part of myself that was a little turned off by the people putting you on a pedestal. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do social media. I'm not going to do. And now I look back and like, why didn't I take, I could have done better. And it's like, so it's such a dance to figure out where the balance is between it all. And then of course you have the people who go full ego mode with it all too, And so it's really interesting, but we're all getting what we need for our own unique path and
Mm.
evolution. And I think if the more you can come back to that, you're always on time. Like the universe is so divine and so perfect, you're always on time. everything was always, you were always a success. You were
Mm.
always a success. And if you can live from that perspective and that truth, now you're transmuting all the, miscalculations from another perspective
Mm.
into something that serves as opposed to hold you back.
You know, something that's really been helpful for me in making that shift was making the discernment for myself between success and impact.
Mm,
And I want to be of two things in this world. I want to be of impact and I want to be of resonance.
mm,
And that takes us back to the conversation around authenticity. By trying to be so inclusive, I was
mhm.
loosely, vaguely, mildly, weakly resonating with a lot of people rather than deeply, potently, powerfully resonating with the people who actually need me.
Yeah, your medicine's not for every person. Like,
Yes. Yes. And, I think I really had to ask myself what my motivation was for that because I want to be honest with myself. Was my motivation selfish in that I didn't want to be perceived and judged? And I'm sure there's levels of truth to that. But if I'm really honest at my core, I love people. I love them. I love everyone. And
mhm.
my deepest desire in this world is for everyone to return to oneness and
You want
unity.
to be liked and loved too.
Yeah, well, I want everyone to feel liked and loved. And I'm realizing that like that is just not the way that we have the deepest level of impact. And so I think when we can when we can redefine what success means for each one of us, because it's a very subjective experience. For me, it's about impact and it's about resonance. And I can only have impact and resonance if I'm authentic and honest.
Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. Um, so I'd like to talk a little bit about, as someone who's really mastered, or, you know, you're always growing, I'm sure, but you're
Sure.
on the high end of using and utilizing intuition as a tool to create your reality and navigate your
Mm.
reality. One of the things that I'm curious about is you have, and I've heard it said intuition is the highest form of intelligence,
Oof.
which
Yeah.
makes so much sense, right? Because you're getting data points from beyond your human calculation. You can't, you're playing checkers and your higher self is playing chess. And if your higher
Mm-hmm.
self is giving you data points that you don't see or perceive that are even outside of time, that's the high, that's,
Mm.
that transcends like 1 + 1 = 2. And I can see, like how I move the blocks, like here in the physical
Yes.
reality. And so I agree with that statement. And then it's like, okay, how do I discern between my intellect and my intuition? My mind and my intuition. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Absolutely. I love this question. And you you spoke almost exactly to how I would describe this. I experience intuition as the voice of our higher self.
Mm-hmm.
It is the message and the direction that we receive from our higher self. And I think we've heard this phrase a lot like follow your bliss, follow your joy. Joy is the needle on the compass of intuition.
Mm.
And we've just called it joy, and we've also somehow decided that joy is like a very trivial thing that like it's unimportant, which I think is so bizarre because I actually would argue that it is potentially one of the most important things. Joy is the feeling of being in resonance. It's the feeling of like, oh, this thing speaks to me. This activity, this person, this experience speaks to me. I feel so good when I'm inside of this. Why do we take that and then go, but that can't be very important?
Yeah.
Beyond me, absolutely beyond me.
Yeah.
So the truth is, there are two voices that exist inside of us. Some people describe it as like two rivers or two wolves that you feed.
Mm-hmm.
And there is the voice of fear, which is our ego, and there is the voice of truth, which is our intuition. And the way to discern between those two things is exactly that. They have been named. One is fear. One speaks to you about things that you fear. It speaks to you about the things that you exist inside of doubt and worry and shame and guilt around. And one voice speaks to you with enthusiasm and encouragement and excitement and belief and faith. And it truly is that simple. There is one voice that makes you feel good and tries to guide you into what you desire. And then there's this other voice that sort of intercedes that process and interrupts and goes, no, no, don't go over there. You're going to fall down. You're going to make a fool of yourself. You're going to be a failure. It speaks to you based on the experiences that you've had in this life. And that's really what I was talking about in the beginning around myself. Like, had these shaming experiences that said, don't talk, don't be seen, don't be heard, don't be experienced, don't be so shiny, don't wear crazy things, don't be yourself.
No
And
pink fluffy sweaters for
no
you.
pink fluffy sweaters and hair bows. And the truth is, I heard that voice even this morning that said,
Mm,
will you be taken seriously? Do you look like a toddler? Are you silly? And the truth is, I tuned in to the voice of truth that said, this is what makes me happy. This is who I am. And this
can
is
I
how I'm
interject real
myself.
quick? Just
Please.
because it's a little bit of a synchronicity. I just shared a clip um, from an interview with Mateus Di Stefano on
Mm-hmm.
podcast a while back, and I just shared it on social media. And the clip, was him talking about the importance of becoming like a child. So you referenced being a toddler, and one of
Mm.
the only Bible verses I ever quote is, unless you become as a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of heaven. And
Yes.
it's like that is the path. So you're like, oh, am I going to be looked at like a child? Hopefully,
Mm. Yeah.
hopefully, because that's where I love that Bible verse, and that clip I just shared like an hour ago is like him talking all
Mm.
about that. The when he was young, he was like so serious or what have you, about his mission, and now he's like, oh my gosh, the more childlike I become, the more my intuition flows, the more the
Yes.
answers come, the more, and so it's like this so counterintuitive, like, by doing less and being in the right energetics, you achieve more,
Mm.
and so we're just all figuring that same lesson out, I think. But I just
Well,
wanted to point it out. Sorry
no,
to
I
throw off.
love that. And I think it's such an important point because the truth is, children are fearless.
Yeah.
They become fearful because of the experiences that they have or the way that those experiences are framed by the people in their lives. And
Right.
what I've realized is that everyone that was critiquing me or criticizing me or trying to get me not to be myself was actually trying to protect me from having an experience that they must have had. Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
they're just trying to protect me from a hurt or a pain or a shame that they experienced, not knowing that in trying to protect me they were hurting and shaming me and
Yeah.
creating distance and separation between who I am and who I'm meant to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have nothing but love and forgiveness and gratitude for what they tried to do. And that's how I really try to encourage people to experience their fear voice as well, because it's loud and it's aggressive and it's also very reflective of what's happening in the ether, because we exist in a world that's noisy and fearful and confusing. And so when it's in resonance, when that voice is in resonance with what's happening outside of us, we go, oh, that must be true. If it's more reflective of the collective
Yep.
perspective, a lot of rhyming there, then it must be true. And in reality, the deepest truth that you can experience is what comes from inside of you, not from
Mm-hmm.
outside of you.
Right.
And I'm really grateful that I had so many wonderful teachers and people around me in my life. But to be honest, and this might sound very self-focused or self-important, I don't do a lot of learning. Like, I don't like take in a lot of other people's things,
Neither.
because I just want to know what I got going on.
Yeah.
I just want to know what I think about something. I just want to know what I feel about something. And that's how I came to my spiritual beliefs. I was given There's this really great quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson where he says, basically, Ralph Waldo Emerson, is that correct? He basically says this thing that, like, each person is entitled to their own unique experience and relationship to the divine. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm so grateful my lighting had the that I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to have my own unique relationship to the universe, that I had my opportunity to have my own unique perspective on spirituality. And even as a spiritual thought leader or a spiritual guide, I still only want to guide people into what feels right and true and authentic for them, nothing more,
Mm-hmm.
nothing less.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree with all that. And it's like I always call it the universe, the YOU universe,
Mm,
because it's you.
yes.
You are in your own private universe, and there is no out there. It's all just, it really, it's something to think about. Like, imagine I believe it to be true. Like, literally, I'm the star of this universe, and you are a prop in my movie. And
Yes.
of course, I make it. You're just reflecting me back to me in some way, shape,
Yes.
or form, and vice versa. I'm a prop in your movie. You're the star of your own universe. There's infinite universes because source is infinite, and
Yes.
so realizing, like, it goes back to what we were saying earlier. You're on your own trajectory, your own path. Yes, you can get in. It's great to get inputs and influences from other people, but nothing supersedes that your own divine connection and divine intelligence. And the more you believe and tap into that, the more powerful I, I would say it becomes. Would you agree?
Yes. And it's more simple than we want it to be. Everyone wants intuition to be so complicated. They want to believe that in order to be intuitive, you have to go to a monastery and do a vow of silence for 7 years and only drink water that comes from a special spring in the Alps, or like whatever. Like or you have to jump around on one foot and pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. Like there's no secret sauce except the willingness to be with yourself. I think the single most spiritual thing that you can do, the single most potent activity that you can do to empower and grow your intuition is morning pages. To be with yourself every single day, to create space to hear yourself. Like even this morning, I was feeling some anxiety, some unsettled energy in my being, and I saw myself writing, I don't know what I want. Like I don't know what I want from myself. I'm not sure what I need from myself. And I thought, hold on a second. Why don't I just ask her?
Mm.
Like why am I assuming on what she needs? And also, why am I assuming that she can't tell me? Why am I assuming that she doesn't know? She damn well knows what she wants and needs. Let me ask her. And then 2 full pages of, I need you to do this, and I need you to stop doing this to me, and I need you to stop telling me I have to be perfect, and I need. She has so many needs, and she knows exactly what they are. And if we don't take the space and create the space to listen, because that's just my intuition telling me I need more opportunities to be creative. I need more opportunities for joyfulness. I need more opportunities for this. I need less of this. She knows exactly what she needs. And so creating the space to have that dialogue with ourselves, to magnify, to put a megaphone in front of that softer voice that whispers rather than in front of the voice of ego that tends to be loud and booming. If we can just tune into the whispers and put a little megaphone in front of her, she will speak. She has plenty to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It always comes back to the same thing. Like
Always.
what story are you telling around the thing? Like it's so and it's such a trip, because even as much as I know that and have professed that, and that has led me to all the good things in my life. I've said
Yes.
many times, the only thing I'm really good at is making up stories about myself that serve me. Like, we just had here at, Mystic Manor, this co-living and event space that I run here in Los Angeles, you know, last week I've never seen a bug like this spread in anywhere. That my a friend of mine was in town visiting, and she went to a little birthday gathering that someone threw for her. She came home. Hours later, she was vomiting,
Mm.
like really sick. Next day, someone now there's between everyone that lives in the space and some visitors, there's like 11 people here over a few days. 8 out of 11 people got completely ill, vomiting their heads off. Like,
Oh,
like some sick for days, some just for a few hours. Like it was like, in our group chat, it's like another one down, another one down, another one down. It was like,
man down.
and
Yeah.
I've just told the story my whole life. I don't believe in getting sick. Now, I can't say I've never been sick, but compared to the average person, like, I've never been admitted in a hospital. I've never, I've had like such incredible health journey. And I just made that up when I was like 17 or something and just stuck with it. And, it's a good example of a story that I just stuck with that, and I was one of the 3 that didn't get no effect, and so, and I can look at myself and see the places where I've told stories that are not serving. Still, I know this, like I know
Yeah.
this, like I know this, and it's like if I can fall off the wagon, and
Yes.
even with a recent breakup and a lot of heartbreak and things around that, like
Mm.
the stories, like, oh, I'm having to like, okay, how do I choose a different story? How do I, instead of something that is really traumatic, you know, telling it differently. I had a friend years ago who would talk about this, and I like the way he put it. He's like, if I were to punch you in the face, you could tell a story around that. Brandon uh, traumatized me. He attacked me. He beat me. He abused me. He, all kinds of charged energy. Or versus, it was I was walking outside, a fish struck my face. There was a stinging sensation. Happening occurred in the universe,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
As since the Big Bang, things are still banging around, right?
Yes.
And the difference between that little kind of silly, story there, but really, like, how are we framing all the things,
Mm,
and because that determines the impact that it has on us. And
absolutely.
it's like I said, I mean, the fact that I know this as well as I do, and I still struggle with it.
Yeah.
It's like we're all, working on that one. And
Oh, yeah.
so, like what I love about what you just shared is like, oh, course correction. I catch it, see it, tell a different narrative, and the universe,
Responds.
abracadabra. I create as I speak. You're
Yes.
casting spells. So
Mm, absolutely.
so yeah, I'm curious, you know, I'm curious. I'm always very fascinated by intuitive gifts and psychic perceptions. And I'm sure you would agree that it's like, if anyone ever says this is what's going to come to pass, run, because there's all
Sure.
kinds of potential timelines and you have, free will to choose. The way I see it is someone tapping in psychically, intuitively, is tapping into strongest potentials that they're feeling or seeing in that moment, but that
Exactly
can
right.
change at any time, right? So yeah, I think that's really important for people to realize where these sorts of things come, are concerned. And I'm curious how, what you haven't spoken to is how they kind of come through for you. Is it clairvoyance,
Mm,
clairaudience? Is it all the things? Is it,
yeah.
just curious about your process.
Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm.
I identify as primarily claircognizant and
Mm,
clairsentient or clairempathetic.
mm,
So for me, I just know
mm,
things. Usually, in my own personal life, they're utterly useless, like just very small little things that make me seem sort of magical, where I'll do something or handle something right before it needs to be handled, so people go, oh, I was just gonna do that. I'm like,
mm-hmm.
I know. So the running joke in my world is, I know I'm psychic, like every like that's kind of the way we
Yeah.
frame it in my personal life. But I think the gift that I'm the most grateful for is the clairsentience or the clair empathy, because the most meaningful feedback or response that I can receive in session is I feel so seen.
Mm,
And what I'm able to do is sort of like enter into someone's energy and feel the feelings that they're feeling. And because I am an expert feeler,
mm-hmm.
basically, I'm able to identify that emotion more easily than the average bear. And it just is sort of an opportunity for me to tap in and go, oh, I know this one. It's shame. Like you're feeling shame. And once we can identify an emotion, we then have the power to heal and shift that emotion. So I really just try to be a mirror of reflection of where people are. And rather than focusing on what will happen, I like to focus on what can happen, as well as what is in the what's in alignment with someone's highest good. So
Yeah.
if someone says, am I going to marry this person? I don't particularly care if you are or you aren't. What I care about is it in your highest good to marry this person? Is
Yeah.
it in the deepest level of alignment for you? Does it allow you to live as the most fulfilled, expressed, authentic, intuitively led version of yourself? Or does this relationship impair you from being who you are meant to be?
Yeah.
That's where I really like to focus. And I think people love a yes or no answer. They're like, just tell me, or even more than that, they love, so many people come to me like, what should I do with my life? Like, what's my purpose? Like, bestie, that's a very personal process for you to uncover, but I'm here to support in figuring that out. I'm here to validate or reflect you. I'm here to help you understand what your inner self is asking for, and then receive guidance from your angels, guides, and guardians to help you take the action steps to be able to step into that life.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is actually referring out. I have a huge network of people that I love and believe in. I'm not an affiliate. I don't get any sort of kickbacks. There are people that I know that can help you shift your reality. And that's not necessarily my job. My job is to light a way down the path and say, there you go. And I can
Mm,
walk with you. I can hold your hand. I can support you. I can be there for you. I can help you stay on the path. But
mm-hmm.
the path is yours to walk. And for anyone to take that away from you, I don't believe is aligned or ethical intuitive work. I also believe that intuitive work must be consensual.
Mm,
So I will not necessarily read on someone else through the individual that's in session. So if they're like, hey, I need you to tell me about this guy that I just broke up with, like, what's he thinking? What's he feeling? I can tell you a bit, but that's his private business and experience. Like,
Yeah.
he has a life and a right to privacy as well. I'm also not the intuitive that's going to approach you in the grocery store. I'm never going to come up to you and say, oh, I see that you're trying to buy rhubarb, but
Mm.
your great Aunt Bertha comes forward with a message. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't ask for that. And I know there's people that want that and hope for that, but there's a lot of people that don't. And as as an intuitive, I don't get to just decide who does and doesn't want to have that experience.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very passionate about consensual experiences, which is why the sacred container of session is so important. Like, you have signed up for an experience, and I will, even in session, ask, are you ready to receive and hear the truth?
Mm.
Because some people come and they want to hear what they want to hear, not what is actually true. And so I'm very, very, very clear to ask, are you ready to hear the truth? And if I don't believe you, I will let you know.
Yeah.
I will tell you, like,
Good.
I don't believe that that is true. And sometimes I ask so that people can prepare themselves for what they're about to hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I do try to be very careful, very compassionate, and create a really intentional, safe space for this work to be done inside of, because it is extraordinarily vulnerable to let someone walk inside of your heart and just walk
Mm.
around and see all the things that you feel and walk around inside your aura and your energy. And that is very personal. And so I don't feel that I have a right to just sort of put on my, goggles and my flippers and dive on in. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm being invited and I appreciate that, but I'm still going to tread with love and
Mm.
consideration.
Yeah, I love that. That makes a heck of a lot of sense. And, one of the things that we talked about is the potential of you doing a little reading with me. And so I
Yes.
would love to invite you into my heart in my auric field. And I trust you emphatically and would love to just, yeah, it's always fun for me to hear and see what people say.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for your consent. And I think what you're about to share with people will resonate deeply and be medicinal. So I'm excited for this. So we actually already have a pretty open and clear channel between us. And that's something I really appreciate about you. You're kind of like an ideal client because you do exist in so much transparency and authenticity, even in, the interactions that we've had. We've been able to just show up really vulnerably with each other, and that is the key ingredient to a successful
Mm-hmm.
intuitive session. So our channel is open. So one of the things that I really love to do, and I wish I had looked into your numerology prior to session, but we can save that for another time. I really like to dive into people's auric fields. I perceive emotion and energy and information as color.
Mm.
Those colors are perhaps unique to me. There's probably some overlap with other practitioners, but um, I'm very comfortable with my little rubric that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the very first things that I see and feel when I tune into your energy is the color green.
Mm.
And I'm not surprised that we're seeing a lot of green in your field
I
because you are
chose
moving
green
through.
today and I don't wear it that much, you know.
I mean, it just sort of radiates out from your energy, but I think it makes a lot of sense because there's two sort of layers of the aura that I perceive. There's the authentic, which is like who you are and who you're here to be, and there's the circumstantial, which is how are you impacted or affected by your circumstances. And the green actually shows up on both levels of your aura for you.
Mm.
One, because you're dealing with matters of the heart right now. You're
Mm-hmm.
healing from heartache, you're healing from heartbreak, and green is also the color of healing. It's the color of the heart. It's the color of compassion, unity, but it is also the color of the healer. And so, on this circumstantial level, we see that there's a lot of extra energy around the heart right now, a little bit of extra tenderness. Like, everything just kind of feels a little abrasive right now, and just you're just a little raw, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we also see this green in your field on a very authentic level. And this is the part of you that had this, high ranking podcast, still does, and just sort of went, I don't need to place myself at the center of that. Like, I'm just happy to be of service. It's the part of you that exists in genuine desire to be of service to this world, that you
Mm-hmm.
show up in a genuine and authentic desire to help the world be a more positive, loving, open, honest, functional place.
Mm-hmm.
And that is sort of one of your very like core tenets of who you are. And because you are rather selfless in what you do, especially from like a humanitarian perspective, it has been harder for you to prioritize yourself. You're not a very self-focused person. And to be honest, I think that if you were to be more self-focused, you would have more potency and have more like experience, which I think is part of why this relationship needed to end, so that you could kind of check back in with yourself and go, "Ooh, I've really been pouring myself into everyone around me." And particularly because you are such a heart-centered and loving person, when you're in an intimate relationship or in a committed relationship, it's very easy for you to just pour and pour and pour in.
Mhm.
But it does create this underlying like discomfort. And I don't want to use the word resentment because it's not an actually resentment, but it's something that could develop into resentment, like this
For sure.
feeling of like, well, I'm not being seen. Well, I'm not. And it's something that you're creating and you're perpetuating. So you're definitely being invited to reflect on the way that you show up in experiences and don't necessarily command space for yourself. There
Mhm.
is more space for you to claim. And we also see quite a bit of blue in your field. It's a very, very deep blue. This lets us know that there's more of your story to tell. Ooh, I'm getting like a feeling in my gut as I'm talking about this. There is more of your story to tell, more of your story to write, more of your story to be shared, but only you can share that story.
Mhm.
And bringing some of the attention and the focus back on your own self and your own voice is going to be really important right now.
Yeah.
But also recognizing yourself as a channel. Like you have things to share and to say and to teach, and being centralized is going to be really important for you. You're so committed to community. I mean, you have this, this shared space that you've created and developed, and you are a part of all things, and yet you are really being asked to centralize your emotional needs as well as your message right now, because we see also quite a bit of red showing up in your field, and this is like a lot of fire. This is something I think you felt quite intensely at one time and sort of decided, oh, this isn't really serving me. Like there's something like there was some resistance between yourself and your fire. And it seems like there might have been a similarity to some of the things that I've experienced where people met that fire and weren't sure what to do with it, like a lot of judgment around that fire.
For sure.
And so you said, okay, that's not how I do this. That's not how I do this. So you packed it up, put a little bow on it, and put it away. And that fire is like just sort of collecting in that box, and that box is
Mhm.
starting to jostle and jiggle. There's something that's trying to come up. And in order for you to take advantage of all that space that's trying to be created for your voice, for your expression, for your mission and your message, we have to let that fire come back in. And it's interesting. I find that I usually end up doing readings for people when it's reflective of where I'm at as well. Like
Of course.
we meet each other on the wavelength,
Mhm.
and you are definitely being invited to speak more passionately, more fervently, more truthfully.
Mm.
And it's not even just about you. You really are a master of vulnerability, truly. And I think you could also, tell yourself you're not. That's that vulnerable part of you that is just always trying to be better, better, better. you have really you really have a strong hold on what it means to speak from your heart. You're less connected to what it means to speak from your gut, like to speak
Mm.
from your point of your place of power. And I
Mm.
think if I may say this, as a masculine energy in this world, I think it's really important for you to take advantage of that energy right now, because there's so many voices that are trying to lead men that are misguided, and we're seeing the effects that has on the world. We're seeing, this rise in misogyny, and it's just because patriarchy is afraid for its life. And
Yeah.
you are being invited forward to be a voice of true divine masculine energy, to be a voice of love and reason of truth, because you are of the people. You are here for us all. You love us all. What you do because you love us. And I think that's so important. Like, it's so important to remember you do what you do because you love us. And in order for you to love us the best way that you can, you have to be the fullest version of who you are. And there are voices that need to be overtaken right now. And you are a voice that needs to come to the forefront, especially as an example to men and for men. And by being the strongest version of you, you're going to have such an incredibly potent and powerful impact. But we need your fire. We need a little bit of, and I think it's okay to, you know, especially in the spiritual space, it's a very female dominated field. And so showing up as a masculine energy with this kind of finger pointing vibe can
Mm-hmm.
feel a little intense, and like you're not supposed to do that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving you permission. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking you to give yourself permission to come back to that energy of authority, because we need you right now. And the more authoritative that you can be, and the more empowered you can be in your voice of authority and your area and your sort of um, source of authority, the more potent and impactful your work is going to be. But you're about to go on a ride, my brother. You are about to be going on a ride. There are so many doors and invitations that are about to be extended to you, and doors that are about to be opened to you. And it's going to be very, very, very important for you to be extraordinarily discerning, because your power is a gift. It is a gift that you give. And just because you're getting a lot of invitations, and I think this is going to be really easy for you, this is just a reminder. Just because you're getting the invitations doesn't mean that those are spaces of service or resonance. And you get to decide where your voice is being magnified right now. And to be honest, I really see you going on some sort of like tour. I feel like you need to be on some sort of like podcast tour or something where you're on maybe not even shows that are as popular as yours. Like you're really speaking to smaller audiences, because that's where the impact is felt and that's where the impact is noticed. And it's almost like you're on some sort of like subversive, subcultural sort of like agenda or mission, where it's like, okay, if everyone's going to be like yelling and fighting and chaotic up here, let's go down here. Let's go where the impact can be had. Let's have secret it's like you're like a leader of the rebellion, honestly, is like the way that it's being shown.
Wow.
And right now, it doesn't necessarily matter how big the stage is that you speak on. It's more about speaking on more stages. Like the more stages you speak on, the more microphones you're in front of, the more ears that are before you, the more potent and powerful it's going to be. I will say, oh, okay, if I may, I am seeing quite a bit of pink in your field. So I do see that there is, I hope you can receive this. There is a new love connection that wants to be forged in your life, something different than you've experienced before. But I would also argue to say that this person feels maybe a little bit outside of the community. I don't necessarily see them already super apart. Like it's almost like this is the person that just says, "Hey, you want to like lay on the couch and eat Cheetos? Like you want to just like you want to do something lazy and silly?" Like somebody who kind of keeps you in that playful energy, in that human energy, because your mission is so profound and you're constantly in those upper chakras, like channeling and speaking and guiding us. Having someone that kind of brings you down to earth and says, we need to go to the park. We need to go for a walk. Like we need to take a bath. We need like someone who can ground you in your humanity and just likes you the way you are, who doesn't necessarily like, who doesn't care if you grow or if you stay the same, like someone who's just happy for you to be who you are. And I feel that this person is close. They're curious. She's definitely curious. But
So someone already in
not
my field, you're saying, suggesting.
not yet in your field, but very close. Like someone that is trying to enter, and it feels like it's going to come through some sort of like event or workshop or experience where someone's just kind of curious about you, or curious about the topic. But like I said, not like a part of the community, kind of just interested, and maybe even a little skeptical, which I think could be really fun for you. Like something that could be a little challenging and supportive at the same time. So definitely being shown that this person is more than anything, what I would say is this person is a grounding sort of counterweight. Like they're a counterweight to who you are in a way that keeps you very, very, very balanced, very stable, very grounded, really fulfilling. But one of the last things I would love to leave you with, if I may, one of the things that Spirit is asking you to do is spend a little bit more time alone. And it might feel like you're already doing that, but getting even deeper into a conversation with yourself, kind of like we were talking about, you're just being asked to really spend a lot of time in like self-reflection and optimization. So the more things you can do independently right now, the better. Like going outside, if for some reason I see you doing some biohacking, and that's something you already do or something you're interested in, but I see like a lot of
someone 2 nights ago all about getting into, he's a biohacking sort of expert, and him taking me on and like
Okay, yes. The biohacking is huge, and it also feels really important. Your field is just a little loose right now. It's not
Mhm.
as defined. And so taking these like red lighting, whatever feels like it's in alignment for you specifically, because it is subjective. We are all different. I'm not a cold plunge girly myself. I like
Yep.
to stay warm and cozy. I don't necessarily need to do that. So whatever feels like it's in resonance for you, but I'm definitely being shown really focusing on like honing your energy, biohacking, like really being intentional about your field and your energy and the way that your energy is both utilized and replenished.
Mhm.
Really being very, very, very hyper conscious of the cycle in which energy
Mhm.
comes in and goes out in
Mhm.
your field. But this is really important because as you prepare for higher levels of ubiquity, notoriety, pervasiveness, I don't like the word fame, so I won't use that word. But as you prepare for even heightened levels or renewed levels of those things, being as stabilized in your own personal field and energy as possible is what is going to make that easy, smooth, possible, and also just very continuous, seamless, fluid. So otherwise what we're doing is we have this energy and we go and then we crash out and then we go and then we crash out. So spirit's saying like if you want to just keep that momentum, being as defined and disciplined and clear in your daily routine as it pertains to you as
Yep.
possible is
Yep.
what's going to make the most impact for you. So I know that that's a lot of energy to
That was
receive. I
great.
didn't really even let you ask any questions. I just kind of talked at you.
Yeah.
Any part of that that's not resonating or any part of it I can
All of it
clarify?
resonates completely. Like, I mean, my aim now is getting into to bed at 9 p.m. and up at 5, and just trying to really. That's why I met with my friend the other night. Okay, I'm ready. To let's fully optimize, and I
Yes.
feel that it's like that's what's required for me to be the greatest and greatest version of myself,
Mm,
and so just making those steps, taking those steps, as and it's been a really challenging, heartbreaking sort of few months. And as I come
mm,
out of that, I know it's like that's all like fertilizer, for
mm,
me to, bloom into the next version of myself. And so all of that is very felt and resonant. And I appreciate you taking the time to tune
mm.
in and just reflect because, yeah, it feels really good to hear reiterated.
May I add one final thing?
Please.
I feel very strongly that a lot of your relationships are going to be shifting right now,
Hmm.
and it's okay. It's
Yeah.
it's okay. It's safe. I think because you are such a loving, caring, communal person, your people are really important to you and
Hmm.
you're really important to them. And it kind of has kept you a little stagnant
Hmm.
because you've been so committed to the same energies for quite a while.
Hmm.
And this is a season for you of shedding so that you can ascend. And I think it's important to know that I think we talk about this a lot in the spiritual community. We're like, oh, ascension, and we're like shedding our relationships and like we're no longer in vibrational resonance. There's no such thing as hierarchy. I think that's really important. There's no such thing as hierarchy. Like the people that you're releasing from your space and from your life and from your circle, you're not better than them. And I know you don't think that. I'm saying this
Right.
for your listeners. Like
Yep.
you're not better than them. They're not below you. There's no such thing. It's like that's you're just changing frequency. You're just changing the channel that you're tuned to because you have new assignments and new invitations and new things that only you can do.
Yep.
And the people that are surrounding you are kind of keeping you in a frequency that is a mismatch to where you're trying to be.
Yeah.
It's you can even think of it as a sidestep into deeper clarity.
Yeah.
But there's really a lot of shedding that's happening for you right now. And I would really, really, really encourage you as you continue to have amazing conversations for this show and as you continue to meet amazing people to take note of the spaces where you feel like, hmm, maybe there's an opportunity for collaboration or co-creation or conversation.
Mm.
Like really take note of who is shining to you, who's feeling
Hmm.
sparkly and resonant and who you feel like you can really be yourself around.
Hmm.
Those are the spaces where you're about to just sort of skyrocket
Mm.
into the next level. So
Mm.
relationships are hard and you're such a lover. So like my heart hurts for you, but I know that all the spaces that are opening up are about to be filled with relationships that feel potentially even better, which is really exciting.
That
So
is exciting.
I just
That
want
is.
to say thank you for letting
Oh,
me
Thank
reflect
you.
that to you, it really is an honor. It really means the world to me to
Oh,
be able to be a voice that reflects to you where you
mhm.
are in this moment, and to be able to let other people in on that and receive that and hear that is so profound. So you've just given everyone a really, really, really big gift, and you've allowed me a gift by entering into your energy. And I'm really grateful for that
Oh,
space. Thank you.
you're beautiful. Thank you so much for being you and showing up. I must be doing something right if I get to share this experience with you. So I know I'm on a good path.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's exciting. It's one of the things that, I'll just share with you that has really been helping me in this process is really dedicating more to my meditation practice too. And I've been doing these like kind of empowerment sort of meditations, Dr. Joe Dispenza meditations that
Of
are
course.
like it's empowerment centric. But then I'm like getting excited about I'm sort of adding my channeling my own messages to myself as I'm doing them, and I'm getting in such a heightened state. And I'm like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, I want to start recording this and like sharing it with other people. It's like it's that fire, And you're spot on. It's like I've had so much fire. I'm a Leo, but if my parents are Leos, I've always
Mm.
I've been known for burning things down with my energy in the past, especially. And so it's like tame the fire, tame the fire, tame the fire. It's too much.
Mm.
It's too much. And it's really just learning how to control it in a way that is constructive, not destructive. And so even doing those sort of like, you know, my plan is to start producing my own content, very simply me doing these empowerment things and sharing them with people to join me and get into that shift your state, together. And I feel like it's going to be really impact, even if it's one person listening, great. If it's a million person listening, great. I don't care, because I'm doing it because it shifts my state, and I just want whoever it can help and can join that journey. So I'm excited to explore that new, just new creative endeavor too, and in background music. And a lot of my friends are like these epic music producers, and so it really feeds that piece of my
Mm.
heart too, of wanting more creativity,
Ah,
and whatever
yes.
uniqueness.
I'm so excited for you and what is being created from your energy and who you are. And we are all blessed by what you bring to this earth. So
Mm.
thank you for being you.
Oh, thank you for being you. And I know we're running out of time here. Do you have time for my one question I always like to go to, that we haven't yet, which is I love to hear stories of synchronicity or serendipity or a positive paranormal story.
Hmm.
And so I'm curious if you have something up your sleeve that comes to mind that's inspiring to share.
Yeah, I do.
Great.
I met an angel once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like the way this is starting.
Yeah. So let me take you back. I'm 22 years old. I'm in the heart of my trauma, very, very, very messed up, not my best self. And I'm living on autopilot. My mom just moved all the way from the East Coast, moved into my 1 bedroom apartment to die. She was diagnosed with terminal cancer and she had 6 months to live and she was dying.
Wow.
Spoiler alert, she's still alive, actually, and she's doing great. So,
Wow.
but she thought she was going to die.
Wow.
And it was probably one of the most traumatic periods of my life. And I was driving and I blew through a stop sign or something irresponsible, got a ticket, had to appear in court. So I'm in downtown Tempe, Arizona at this point, in the middle of ASU. I park my car on the street. I go inside. I put on my little pouty face. I get out of my ticket, and I've learned nothing. I've learned that by being cute and persuasive, I can get anything I want, right?
Right.
So, walk outside. My car is gone,
Oh.
towed or something. Who knows? Don't know where it is. And I get on the phone with my mom, and I'm like, my car's gone. And, we're sharing a car because she's going to die. She's not buying a car because she's going to die, she thinks. So I'm like, the car's gone. I don't know. I'm just freaking out, freaking out. And all of a sudden, from down the street, I see this man walking toward me, and he looks exactly like John Quinones. If you know who that is, he's like the host of What Would You Do? And he looks like John Quinones, and he's wearing like this weird mismatched outfit. He's not a transient human being. He's not without home. He's just a weird, strangely dressed,
Mm-hmm.
and carrying a ton of plastic bags full of nothing, I think, or other plastic bags, just carrying all these bags. And he's walking down the street like, like dancing and just like singing to himself. And he's so happy. And I'm just like, bah, 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 bah. And all of a sudden, my mom just starts like a mom needs to when I'm going crazy. She just starts, hey, you need to cut the shit. She's like reading me the riot act. So I like turn my phone down because I don't want anyone to hear me getting yelled at. And I'm crying and okay, getting yelled at. And I'm not saying a word, you know, I'm just getting reamed out by my mom. And this man starts getting closer and closer and closer to me. And he looks me right, he stops in front of me and puts his eye, like looks me dead in the eyes, puts his hand on my shoulder, which at any other situation I would have been very uneasy with, but I just knew this was fine. And he looks me in the eyes and he says, she just loves you. She's just worried about you. And it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. You're going to figure this out. I promise. This is just the hard part. This is just the hard part. It's going to get easier, but you've got to be strong. You've got to stay through this. You've got to stick it through. It's going to be okay. And I'm crying. I'm looking at, and I realize like, you're not a human. You're someone pretending to be a human. This is what you think humans look like. This is like, it was like someone cosplaying a human.
Yeah, right.
And there is no way from where he was that he could have any idea what was happening with me, any idea what was going, like, I wasn't speaking. I was just being yelled at. I had the volume all the way down. He could not hear it. But for him to say, she just loves you. She's just trying to help you. She's just trying to teach you. She feels like she doesn't have enough time. Like all these things. He was just telling me all these things that I was like, sir, what? And then just gives me like a little pat on the shoulder and says, I'll see you later. Back down the street, dancing and singing to himself, and I got my plastic bags. And I remember thinking, I was like, Mom, I gotta go. Click. And I knew in that moment, like I just met an angel and he could not have arrived more on time.
Wow.
That's my story.
That's a great story. That's a really, really great story. I love it. And I have one, maybe when we have more time together. And
yes.
I hope that we do. And
we will.
To share more time. I think we will. I have a somewhat similar story where I feel like that was an angel. I'll share with you sometime. And it was,
I can't wait.
It was a good one. It was a good one. Well, this has been incredible. Zoey, thank you so much for taking the time. Please share with the listeners, what's the best way for them to connect with you, find your work, etc.
So you can, if you're interested in a session, but you're like, I'm not sure, you can always listen to the Higher Self Hotline podcast. It's where I share real client sessions. I share interviews with amazing practitioners and thought leaders like yourself. Your best friend, Brandon's going to come on the podcast. So get excited. We're definitely going to have him on.
So looking forward to that.
I can't wait. And of course, you can connect with me on socials at the Zoey Greco, ZoeyGreco. And you can visit me at zoeygreco.com to connect with me directly. But I'm always on Instagram. I'm in my DMs. You can literally talk to me. Like I will just have a conversation with you. I love you already. And I can't wait to serve and support you in however you need me. So thank you for this opportunity to connect. And thank you everyone for listening and receiving me and holding space for me to exist in this world as I am. And thank you so much for creating the platform in which that could occur.
Oh, you are so thoughtful, so well spoken. Thank you for taking the time to come and share your wisdom and inspiration. And thank all of you out there for tuning in your beautiful brainwaves and incredible hearts to another episode. Until next time, journey well.
I love you so much.